If you have clicked on this video, I assume that you are not an audio nerd, unlike my usual audience, but rather someone who knows an audio nerd. Maybe you're a parent, a friend, a significant other, aunt, uncle, and you want to buy a gift to an audio nerd. But you have no idea where to start. By most accounts, people would refer to me as the king of the audio nerds. Allow me to demystify this large and frankly quite confounding industry and guide you along to make the best purchase for your audio nerd. This video is sponsored by Headphones.com. Yes, this is an ad read. Headphones.com is the premier online audio retailer for those of you residing in the continental United States as well as Canada. Pick and choose from a wide range of enthusiast level products ranging from DAPs, IEMs, IEMs, and of course, headphones. And to sweeten the deal, Headphones.com also has an unprecedented 365-day return policy, so if you want to, you could also just use them to try out some headphones that you otherwise wouldn't be able to try. There is still a restocking fee, but it's so much better than having to sell your regrets at a loss, right? Go to Headphones.com, tell them I sent you, and of course support the people who support me. For the best experience, I have made timestamps down in the description below, so for those who are looking for specific products, just go down and search for the specific section that you want to watch. The audio industry can be classified into three big categories: earphones, headphones, and sources. Also accessories, but let's not get into that right now. So let's start with what I think is the biggest category, which would be earphones. What are earphones and what is actually classified as an earphone? To put it very simply, as long as a piece goes into your ear, it is classified as an earphone. And the largest subcategory of earphones would be something like this. This is what we in the industry call a true wireless earbud. I'm sure all of you are familiar with something like this. It comes with a case, a charging case, and of course, the earphones themselves are truly wireless. Truly wireless simply means that there is literally no wires that connect the two earpieces. There are also wireless earphones, but those are called simply wireless earphones because they usually connect the two left and right channels to each other. Now, the category of true wireless can still be subdivided even more into what we call the earbud form factor as well as the in-ear form factor. To put it simply, something like the original Apple AirPods or EarPods would be considered something like an earbud in that it doesn't actually seal all the way into your ears. Something like the AirPods Pro, on the other hand, comes with a silicone bud, and what it does is that it goes into your ear and seals the ear canal. So when trying to buy a true wireless bud for your audio nerd, I think most of the time it would come in an in-ear form factor, but just take note that sometimes people wouldn't like the earbud form factor because it does not block out the outside noises as effectively. On top of that, wireless buds also come with a function that we call ANC, or active noise cancelling. When you see this specific function on the product pages, what it means is that it uses battery power to actively cancel the outside noise. ANC is really useful in that it can create even more isolation out of your average earpiece, but the typical downside is that the battery life is typically quite a bit lower. For example, something like the original Samsung Galaxy Buds Plus, which doesn't have ANC, would get you about 11 hours of playback time. On average, with an ANC set, you would get about 6 hours. I consider 6 hours to be the par for ANC wireless buds. Then we get into the category of the non-true wireless buds, which are less popular but more appropriate for something like exercise use. It is still less popular for exercise and gym use as compared to a true wireless bud, but it does give you extra security given the fact that both sides are actually connected to each other. Essentially, you just can't lose one side. You lose either nothing or both. It's an all-in situation. There's a brief side note I would give to something called bone conduction headphones, which look like your typical wireless earphones, but they don't actually go into your ear. They use bone conduction, and they are very appropriate for something like jogging where you need to hear your environment. That said, as an audio nerd, I would highly advise against buying it for an audio nerd because they sound absolutely terrible. If your audio nerd still desires something where they can still hear their outside environment, I would still suggest getting something like a true wireless earbud because most of them tend to have transparency mode or ambient modes, and what those do is that they take the input from the microphone and just relays it back into your ear. Essentially, you still hear your environment. Either that, or you can consider an earbud form factor where the buds don't actually seal around the ears and therefore you can hear more of the surroundings. For example, a non-ANC AirPods. As I've mentioned, this is the biggest category of audio products by far. So the price can range all the way from like $15 US, which I highly do not recommend because there's simply not enough engineering that can go into that kind of cost, or all the way up into the premium ranges of about $500 to about $800 US. Typically, I recommend people stray around the sweet spot of about $150 to about $200 US. This is where you get more or less the diminishing returns of this category. But hey, you know, I'm not the one who's telling you to spend the money, so if you want to buy the cheap shit, I am not going to stop you. So now that we have talked about the wireless earphones, let's now talk about the wired earphones. Same with the wireless side, there are two big subcategories, the earbud form factor as well as the in-ear form factor. The earbud form factor, again, doesn't seal around the ears, so when you put it on, you still hear most of the environment around you. Wired earbuds tend to be the cheapest kind of audio products that you can get. Some of them you can even get for under $1 for some reason. But if your person is a true audio nerd, then they would probably not give earbuds even a second look. They're good for fairly niche operations, for example, office work where you can't wear big bulky headsets and you still want to hear your environment in case the boss comes and bothers you, or simply just usage in bed where they don't want to have something that is irritating their ear canals, for example. Or maybe they might have a health issue where their ear canals get very irritated very easily and therefore they can't have anything that surrounds it or it makes contact with it. But in general, earbuds don't tend to be very good in terms of audio quality for a myriad of different reasons that I don't want to get into now. So it's good if you need something really, really cheap or really, really basic that you can just throw to someone. But for an audio nerd, I wouldn't really recommend it. What I would recommend would be what is the hottest subcategory now, which would be the wired in-ear space. In this space, we call them IEMs, or short for in-ear monitors. These are essentially the same as your wireless in-ear buds, but they come with wires. The wired IEM market is huge. It's massive. New things come out every single week. And the rule of thumb that I usually like to give to a lot of newbies is that if you're spending anything under $100 US, it's good to look into something that we call Chi-Fi, which is simply just Chinese earphones. And I know what you're thinking, Chinese earphones, they're just poor quality garbage, right? Well, in this space, the Chinese are the ones that are pushing for greater, better value at almost every single price point. And at this point in time, it could change in the future, but at this point in time, the budget market, which again, like I said, under the $100 US mark, is absolutely dominated by Chi-Fi. I'm not gonna spoon feed you specific models to get because, like I said, the market moves very fast. Whatever I say right now would probably be outdated next week. So do your research, look at the multiple different price brackets. There's not really a rule of thumb that I like to give besides the fact that Chi-Fi is actually really good in this market. Basically, if you see something that is fairly well reviewed by the enthusiasts in the market, well, they're most likely pretty good. The market is pretty good. So I don't think that your audio nerd would be too offended by the choices that you make. Now, the question that you guys might be asking right now is why would you buy a wireless IEM over a wired one or vice versa? The good things about wireless is simply the fact that it's convenient. It connects to your phone, there is no wires, you don't have to get a dongle in our non-headphone jackless world. Wireless earphones also have nifty things that wired earphones don't. For example, the fact that they have a battery, they have a chip, means that they can do stuff like ANC, or the fact that they have microphones, stuff to which the wired stuff may or may not have depending on the models that you get. So with so many benefits, why would you get a wired earphone over a wireless one? For one thing, and I tell everyone this all the time, they just last. Your typical wireless earphone is not going to last more than 2 to 3 years for the simple fact that the battery would degrade and eventually the charge would not last more than a couple of hours at most. With a wired earphone, everything is analog, stuff simply works. It is not uncommon for someone to have an earphone, an IEM, that is like 15 to 20 years old because they just work. They're analog. You don't use them for a period of time and then you use them again, they still work. With which is not something that I can say for the wireless earphones. The second thing is that wired earphones also tend to sound generally better, because when it comes to the wireless earphones, you have to put in a lot of different components into the housing which affect the acoustics. The wireless earphone manufacturers, they try their best. They try and process the sound digitally. But at the end of the day, it's just a compromise. It's still just a compromise. With a wired earphone, you don't have to worry about bit rates, like transfer rates wirelessly. You just plug it in and you essentially get a lossless signal. I don't want to make a general assumption that all wired earphones sound better than all wireless earphones, because some wireless stuff can sound really, really good. But in the enthusiast world, in the audio nerds world, most of the time, the high-end wired stuff would beat out the high-end wireless stuff. With earphones out of the way, let's now talk about headphones. Just like with the earphone sides, the headphone side can also be split into two major categories: the wireless ones and the wired ones. The wireless headphone side of the market tends to be fairly straightforward. So most of the time when it's a wireless headphone, it tends to be more of a lifestyle branded thing. I can throw you a few examples and you know what I mean. The AirPod Maxes, the Bose headphones, the Sony UWP-D27, who knows what generation it is. You know, the headphones that you see in AirPods all the time, and for good reason. It's because of the extra size that you get with the wireless headphones that make the ANC a lot better than they are than with the wireless in-ears. So here is a hot tip by Uncle Crinacle. If your audio nerd is someone who travels frequently and have expressed the desire of wanting something that they can bring onto a plane or on a bus or whatever, a wireless ANC headphone is probably your best bet. Again, I don't want to give a recommendation in case the recommendation gets outdated at some point, but most of the time when you look at the reviews, you look at how the ANC performs, you can just go for the recommendation, because most of the time when the audio nerds like us go out traveling, we don't really care about sound quality. So with wireless out of the way, let's now talk about the wired headphones. The wired headphones can be categorized again into two more categories: the open backs and the closed backs. This is an example of an open back headphone. You can see the grills on the cups, which means that the outside air, the outside noise can go into the headphone cup. Some of you may be asking yourselves, why would a headphone company do something like this? Well, it's simple. Doing something like this actually makes the headphone sound a lot more open. It helps with ventilation, and in general, just makes the headphone sound better. Which is why you see a lot of the top recommendations for the wired audiophile headphone market tends to be open back. Almost all of them. The drawbacks, of course, being the fact that they don't isolate. So if you're buying this for your audio nerd and they specifically ask for something that isolates themselves from the rest of the environment, you done messed up. With an open back headphone, you can hear everything that is around you. But on the flip side, if you're someone who listens very, very loudly, everyone can also hear everything you're listening to. If you want to avoid all of that, then what you want is something called a closed back. The whole thing is completely enclosed, no vents, and what it does is that it isolates you from the rest of the environment. So yes, the advantage of a closed back headphone is that your surrounding noises are attenuated, but the drawback is that it also doesn't sound as open as an open back headphone. The other issue with a closed back is that if you live in an environment like Singapore, where our temperatures regularly hit 30 degrees Celsius, it is hot as shit. Again, I don't know exactly what the use case for your audio nerd is, so make it clear with them, ask them what they want, and then get them what they want. And now we get into another subcategory of headphones that is very popular nowadays, which is the gaming headset. The gaming headset category is kind of a loose amalgamation of every other different category that's shoved together. Typically, the gaming headset is defined by the fact that they have a boom microphone. And that's kind of it. Gaming headsets tend to be closed backs, though there are now a small but growing subset of gaming headsets that are also open back. On top of that, gaming headsets can also be wireless, and I also know some gaming headsets with ANC properties. Like I said, it's an amalgamation of many different things, but if your audio nerd has specifically asked for a gaming headset, at least you know it's like, okay, this guy wants a microphone. of some kind. One more thing that you do need to take note about the headphone market is also the kind of fit that the cups have on your head. The first category would be circumaural, aka around the ear, because the pads literally go around the ear, or supraaural, aka on ear, where the pads themselves actually press onto your pinna flange, your ears. Now, 90% of the headphones out there are going to be circumaural for comfort reasons, but there are a very small niche of headphones that are going to be supraaural, and these are mainly used as DJing equipment or simply in the broadcast industry. Now, with the stuff that shoots music into your ears covered, let's now talk about sources. This is probably one of the harder topics to explain to a complete newcomer, but let me try my best. The source, which is, to explain it like I'm 5, the thing that you plug the headphone or earphone into. Source equipment, again, can be split into 3 big categories: the DACs, the amplifiers, or both. To make things clear, to play music on your headphone or earphone, you need both the DAC or DAC as well as the amp. If I were to make a simple example, the Apple headphone adapter, that contains both a DAC as well as an amp. The Apple headphone adapter is in a category that we call the dongle, which is a typically USB-C connection attached to a very small unit that contains both the DAC as well as the amplifier. A headphone or earphone can be typically serviced by something simple like the Apple headphone adapter. But since we are dealing with audio nerds right now, you should also understand that there are, again, a wide range to which you can play with these kinds of sources. Dongles are currently the most popular as well as portable solution that handles both the DACs as well as the amp. But on top of that, there are also portable DAC amp solutions that uses battery power in order to provide even more power into the headphone or the earphone. To go even deeper into the rabbit hole, there are also desktop DACs as well as desktop amplifiers that basically take wall power to serve even more power into your headphone and or earphone. And like I said, everything still boils down into the 3 categories. It's either a DAC, an amp, or both. Are you guys familiar with the iPod, the Apple product, whose sole purpose was to play music and nothing more? Welcome to the realm of the digital audio player, which is essentially just audiophile iPod. The digital audio players of today, or DAPs for short, look essentially like a fat smartphone. Like I said, their main function is simply just to play music. They come with a DAC and an amp, and typically, again, serve the purpose of an iPod. Some people go crazy over them. Personally, I don't care about them too much. I would prefer to use something like a USB-C dongle into my phone where I keep all my music. So the typical questions that you should now ask your audio nerd is, which thing do you want? And at least now you know what to ask. Do you want an earphone? Do you want a headphone? Do you want a source? Do you want an amp? Do you want a DAC? Etc, etc. From here, you can narrow down all your choices and do the research as you see fit. Or even better, you can simply ask the audio nerd specifically what they want. Because honestly, that is the surefire way that you would not fuck up at all. So to all the friends, the families, the significant others who are completely perplexed by this industry, I hope that this video has demystified some of the things for you. And now I shall thank my audio nerds, my big money boys. Here are all of your names who have subscribed to the $20 tier on my Patreon. And for those who have subscribed to the $30 tier, behold your names: Dennis, McMadface, Crinacle, Andrew, Posichronic, Drizza, Seraphim, Like Pizza, Chemotherapy, and Daryl. I thank you all. Look at me capitalizing on the holiday seasons. I shall see you all next week, and don't die. Fuck off.